Happy Friday and welcome to the Big Tech Gut Check here on Scrolling to Death. This is a weekly update for parents on all things social media and big tech. Lots of crazy things happened this week in the space. Let's start with Telegram. You may or may not have heard of Telegram, but the fact is this encrypted messaging app has 900 million monthly active users. It's an app that people use for private conversations, being that it is end-to-end encrypted. Nobody can access the content except the people involved in the conversation. And what happens on encrypted apps? Nefarious behavior. So governments started to investigate and found that huge groups of people on Telegram were sharing sexual abuse photos and videos of children harming themselves, how-to guides on how to groom young girls, conversations about terrorism, and lots of other bad stuff. So the Paris government this week arrested Telegram CEO Pavel Durov the second he landed in his private jet in their country. Durov is being charged with a long list of crimes, including being complicit in enabling child sexual abuse material and harm to children, enabling the sale of illegal drugs, enabling organized fraud and illegal transactions, and a lot more. 12 total charges that could put Durov in prison for 20 plus years. Despite Telegram stating publicly that child sexual abuse and calls to violence are explicitly forbidden in their terms of service, they are completely failing in the follow-through. So Durov was released from custody after several days of questioning, and there will be a trial. So what should parents do, and why does this apply to us? First of all, search for Telegram on your child's devices, delete it, and block it. Second, this is a very interesting update because the charges that are being brought upon Telegram's CEO represent the same issues that we're seeing on TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram and Facebook. Are these other CEOs at risk for arrest? People tell me all the time that Mark Zuckerberg should be behind bars. The decisions that he has made specifically purposefully put our children in more danger. You're going to learn more about that. A little teaser on tomorrow's episode is a special, crazy interview with Facebook whistleblower David Erb. But there truly could be a domino effect here where we're seeing these executives finally held liable for the decisions they make that allow our children to be harmed. Next up, a big-time legal update that could change everything when it comes to holding these tech firms liable for harm. So back in 2021, a 10-year-old named Nyla Anderson was on TikTok. TikTok's algorithm served her a video of the blackout challenge where kids choke themselves until they pass out. They wake up, they post the video, and get the likes and comments that they crave. But Nyla, at 10 years old, did not wake up. This challenge took her life. Her family sued the platform for literally serving her a video that killed her, something she did not search for. And as big tech companies do every single time, they claimed immunity because of Section 230. You may be aware, but Section 230 is a law passed in 1996 which basically shields tech companies from liability when something on their platform harms someone. This may have been applicable in 1996 because internet platforms were basically message boards where you could post something and then someone else would search for that content and find it. There was no algorithm serving content to anybody that they didn't search for. But in today's world, the social media companies have a huge influence on what kids see. They proactively and purposefully serve content to children that is often harmful and leading to deaths. So back to the lawsuit. This week, a U.S. appeals court in Philadelphia ruled that Section 230 does not bar the Anderson family from pursuing claims that TikTok's algorithm recommended a deadly challenge to their daughter, leading to her death. U.S. Circuit Judge Patty Schwartz stated, quote, "Content curation using algorithms is speech by the company itself, which is not protected by Section 230. Big Tech has been operating with a get-out-of-jail-free card, and it's time to hand that over." I will actually be interviewing the attorney representing the Anderson family in this case next week, and I'll get that turned around and out for you guys as soon as possible. Let's stay on TikTok for one more update. So more studies are proving that the Chinese Communist Party is influencing what users see on TikTok and actually what they believe. The latest study is by NCRI and Rutgers, and here's what they found. TikTok's moderation algorithms significantly suppress anti-China content, and they amplify influencers and clickbait material to drown out discussion around negative news about the CCP, like CCP-driven ethnic genocide and human rights abuses. And here's the kicker. Americans who spend more time on TikTok demonstrate a pro-China attitude. So what they're doing is working. This suggests that TikTok's content may contribute to psychological manipulation of its users to align us with the CCP's agenda. I think we've just scratched the surface on this one, and there's still a chance that TikTok will be removed from our app stores here in the US if it isn't sold to an American company and if the pending lawsuit that TikTok filed against us goes in our favor. Okay, last thing about TikTok. There's actually a new class action lawsuit being filed against TikTok related to child privacy. So if your child created a TikTok account under 13 years old without your consent, you may qualify to join this lawsuit. You have to live in one of these states: California, New York, Maine, Michigan, Minnesota, North Dakota, New Mexico, Oregon, Utah, Washington, or Washington, D.C. I've included a link in the episode notes for more information on that class action lawsuit. A couple updates on Snapchat for this week. So Snap just announced that its platform is now available on iPads. Yay! So parents will now need to get out all your iPads, go to the settings, then go to screen time, then content and privacy restrictions, then iTunes and App Store purchases to create approval settings for apps like Snapchat so that when your child wants to download an app, you have to approve it. But remember, even though Snapchat is supposed to be available for 13-year-olds, in the App Store for Apple, it's actually available for 12-year-olds. That discrepancy is something I'm trying to work on, and I encourage parents to go to the App Store, search Snapchat, leave a review. Tell Apple that it is irresponsible to list Snapchat for 12-year-olds when you have to be 13. This is giving millions of kids access to the app when the parents have not allowed it. Now I want to explain something related to Snapchat about third-party apps. So we're obviously all concerned about social media, but did you know that social media apps, the big ones like Snapchat, Instagram, and others, they allow third-party apps to integrate, becoming available to users within the main app. One of the most problematic types of apps that integrates with social media is called anonymous apps. Specifically, there's one called Yolo, which was available within Snapchat. Yolo and other anonymous apps are huge sources of bullying, basically encourage the torture of children. So in 2020, 16-year-old Carson Bride was being bullied so horrifically through an anonymous app connected to Snapchat, he couldn't figure out who it was to fix it, and he ended up taking his own life. Carson's mom, Kristen, filed a lawsuit against Yolo and Snapchat. So Snapchat did remove Yolo from being able to integrate at that time, though they still allow third-party apps in their Snap Kit. But this week, there was an update in Kristen's case. So the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that Section 230, the immunity shield I mentioned, that tech companies use as a get-out-of-jail-free card, it does not apply to Yolo. Yolo will need to take responsibility for falsely promising to children that the identities of their cyberbullies will be revealed. They falsely created the belief that the product was safe. This is a big win for Kristen and for the Bride family and for all families. One little step in getting our kids some protection online. Kristen recently shared, quote, "Nothing can bring back our son or reduce the pain we live with, but our family is relieved with the decision." I've interviewed Kristen twice now, and she is a warrior in this fight. You can find both of these interviews on my website, scrollingtodeath.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts, or watch them on YouTube. Lots of options. Okay, I'm going to close out with 2 research updates that parents should know about. NYU professor and researcher Jonathan Haidt and his team, including the incredible Zach Roush, are taking on the challenge to prove that social media is a literal cause of depression and anxiety in kids. Turns out this is not so hard to prove. What they did was a meta-analysis of all the related experiments that exist. And what is shown is that when young people reduce their social media consumption for at least 2 weeks, their mental health improves. Short-term abstinence of social media is producing withdrawal symptoms, and long-term abstinence of social media shows improvements to mental health outcomes. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg stated in front of Congress that there is not a link between social media use and negative mental health outcomes. Let's hear from Mark now.
Mental health is a complex issue, and the existing body of scientific work has not shown a causal link between using social media and young people having worse mental health outcomes.
So Jonathan Haidt and his team think that Zuckerberg is wrong, and they are proving it. So parents, please get Jonathan Haidt's book. It's called The Anxious Generation. It will change your life. It will help you guide your kids through the technology decisions you have to make in a safe way. Second research update for today, and this time from an organization called Children and Screens. This time we're talking about screen use in the first couple years of life, so babies and toddlers. And research shows that infant screen use can negatively affect cognitive development of not only infants, but then later into childhood and even as adults. Babies and toddlers with high screen time are showing motor delays, delayed social development, lower verbal scores, poorer language processing, and later on in childhood, lower scores on tests, lower in class participation, and lower academic proficiency. I continue to see parents commenting, oh, my child learned how to talk from YouTube, or my child learned how to say mama at 8 months old because of this YouTube video. But results are consistent and clear. Infants cannot learn from screens, and screen use actually disrupts and displaces real world situations which are optimal for their learning and for their brain development. If you want your child to thrive, if you want to give them the best possible outcomes, and they're under 2, try for no screen time. I know that is hard in some families, but try for their sake. And that is it for the Big Tech Gut Check here on Scrolling to Death for this week. Thank you again for being part of all these important conversations and for prioritizing your children's mental health over their screen use. They will thank you one day. I will catch you next week.